Hey, how's it going, friends? Thank you for tuning in to VR Revelations. Welcome. If you could give the video a like and make sure you subscribe, I would appreciate it very much. So let's jump right into it. It is February the 13th, the year of our Lord 2023. Now, as I've been reporting here for the last couple of days, we know that Russia has launched a sort of major offensive. Now, I say sort of because this is apparently the rumored offensive that was being talked about since, last year in December when Ukraine said that Russia was planning on launching a major offensive at the beginning of this year. Now, a lot of people were expecting an operation sort of like we saw at the beginning of the war last year, where they actually attacked the capital of Ukraine, right, through Belarus. So, as you can see here on the Live UA map, this is the whole front right now. You can see there's a lot of activity right now, a lot of bombardments here, artillery rounds by the Russians. But yeah, last year at the beginning, initially they tried to pretty much take control of the capital, and they attacked through Belarus. We know that the Ukrainians were able to push the Russians out, and the operation sort of seemed kind of disorganized and, on a small scale. But eventually, of course, it shifted towards the east, where the war has been going on since pretty much 2014, right? But now it's obvious that the Russians started focusing all of their efforts on the eastern side, and since last year they have made gains. Of course, all of this is now legally part of Russia according to Russia. They've literally annexed all these regions here, guys. Like, this belongs to Russia now legally. It's never going to go back to Ukraine unless they can defeat Russia, but you're not going to defeat Russia unless you nuke them with nuclear weapons, but then we're just talking about the end of the world. So this is all part of Russia now, and again, Ukraine was rumoring a major offensive. Most analysts were saying that, yeah, there was going to be a major offensive, and even myself, I was expecting another attack on the capital through Belarus. Now, that can still take place, right? This could be the beginning of that major offensive. And as you can see, the Russians are advancing at a quite rapid and aggressive pace right now along the front. Of course, as I've been reporting, right now all eyes are on Bakhmut right down here, because this city has become a stronghold and a symbol of Ukrainian resistance. Now, as I've stated previously, the United States a couple of weeks ago advised Zelensky to pull out the forces from Bakhmut, essentially saying, hey, look, it's a lost cause. It's okay. You can let it go, and you can save your units for a future battle or possibly an offensive. We know that the West and Ukraine's allies, such as Germany and England, are sending tanks, but unfortunately for them, that isn't enough to actually carry out an offensive. So it looks like all these things are defensive in nature. Now, Zelensky has repeatedly said that, they need those weapons now, that, there are reports that some of these tanks might not arrive till way later in the year. And Zelensky actually said that if those tanks don't arrive by August, it will already be too late. So you can just imagine how critical the situation is. And so time is not on their side, but there is, this small window here of about almost, like 2 months now. I believe in March, the German Leopard 2 tanks are supposed to arrive, or they're supposed to be ready to deploy. So Russia is now carrying out this offensive here, the likes that, we really haven't seen since last year. And so right now, Bakhmut is pretty much close to collapse right now, as we're going to be seeing here. The New York Times, literally right now, as you can see here, updated 4 minutes ago, is now foreshadowing the imminent collapse, guys. Bakhmut, I believe, is collapsing this week. I think the Russians are going to encircle it here. And again, this isn't me just saying it. Check this out. Ukraine tells aid groups to leave Bakhmut. So they're pulling all the medics, all the people taking care of the injured soldiers. They're pulling them out. They gave the order to pull out of Bakhmut because it's now too dangerous for the medics to be there. So usually when an army pulls the medics from an area, that means that there really isn't a safe route into the city. So it's kind of like a precursor before they actually pull out the soldiers. Now, there's actually been videos online of Ukrainian soldiers criticizing the leadership for not giving the order to pull out of Bakhmut. So Zelensky, contrary to what the West and the United States has been advising, has doubled down and said that they're going to fight for Bakhmut to the last soldier. And again, a lot of of the soldiers in Bakhmut are actually mad at this because, these guys, the politicians, they're eating their nice meals, they're sitting inside their warm palaces, and they're just giving orders. And a lot of the times, these orders are just not attainable, right? They contradict any basic military logic, but again, there is pride and stubbornness involved. And so it seems that Zelensky is rather is willing to put his pride over the lives of his men, which is just terrible. Hopefully, for the sake of these Ukrainian soldiers, again, I'm not for either side, but you'd never like to see, a commander or a leader send his soldiers to certain death because of arrogance. That is just absolutely pathetic, in my opinion. But anyways, let's take a quick read at the article here. So, again, this is Western media, guys, coming straight out of the U.S., the New York Times, and they know that Bakhmut is a lost cause right now. Everybody knows it. Pretty much everybody now is just waiting for Zelensky to give up and to give the order for these soldiers to back out of there. Now, is he going to do that? Is he, at least a little bit smart enough to realize that those soldiers can be useful for later on? So it says here, here's what we know. As Russia's months-long campaign to seize the strategic city in eastern Ukraine intensifies, Kyiv's forces said the danger to aid workers has become too great. Here are some points here. The order for aid groups to leave Bakhmut could be a prelude to Ukrainian withdrawal. Those are the soldiers. Volunteers have taken great risks to keep working in Bakhmut. A visit to Belarus appends attempts at isolation by Hungary's fellow EU nations. As Ukraine awaits more Western weapons, it wants to stop Iran from bolstering Russia's arsenal. We know that Iran has been providing these kamikaze drones, which have been used pretty effectively by the Russians. Ukraine troops showed off their training on new German tanks in Poland. Biden plans to visit Poland for the anniversary of the start of the war. The mayor of Kherson isn't giving up, even as Russia shells her city relentlessly. Again, it's like, who cares about the mayors and these leaders? They're going to get out of Dodge. They're going to be safe. What we care about are the innocents, the people, right? Nobody cares about these mayors. They're not on the front lines. They're not picking up guns and putting on helmets and going to the trenches. Like, why are you saying like making it out to seem like the mayor is actually fighting down there? It's like Zelensky. He hasn't fired around the whole war. As soon as this war's over, he's going to get out. He's going to flee to like the UK or the US, I guarantee you. The order for aid groups to leave Bakhmut could be a prelude to a Ukrainian withdrawal. I would agree there. Aid groups and civilians will not be able to enter Bakhmut starting on Monday. That would be today, guys. Ukraine's military said as fighting continued to intensify in Russia's months-long campaign to seize the strategic city in eastern Ukraine, which Zelensky has labeled an impenetrable fortress. The Ukrainian army said that it would no longer allow aid groups in the city because of the danger posed by street fighting. The ban on volunteer access could suggest a prelude to a Ukrainian withdrawal, although the Ukrainian military has insisted it retains control of the city, can resupply troops, and can evacuate its own wounded. All these things are lies. It's hilarious. Like they literally just straight up lie about the situation, about the fact that they are losing, and then up until like the last second when they literally pull out, and then they'll just make up an excuse like, oh, it's a strategic retreat. Of course, we could have stayed there if we wanted to, but we did it strategically. And one thing you'll notice is that every time they lose, they always say, oh, but we killed a whole bunch of Russians. So they're killing a whole bunch of Russians. They're retreating strategically, and the West is labeling this as a sort of winning effort by Ukraine, while in reality they're literally losing the war and close to defeat, pretty much. After months of withering bombardment, Russian forces, including both regular troops and mercenaries from the Wagner private military company, now appear to have surrounded Bakhmut on three sides. Ukraine's military said that street fighting had commenced in two neighborhoods. Sorry about my cat there, guys. And that one remaining road that Ukrainian forces used to gain access to the city was under Russian fire. So if we actually go to the map here, and as you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. So you see Bakhmut here, guys, a lot of activity. Go check out this map on Google. It's the Live UA map. This is pro-Ukrainian, so they're Ukrainian sympathizers here. So usually they're a little bit slow on their reporting, or rather, they're slow to admitting what Russia has captured. But as you can see here, it's becoming pretty much undeniable what is happening near Bakhmut. So if we actually zoom in a little bit, of course, I'm not familiar with the area at all, never been there in my life, but you can see here that there are a couple of highways, right, moving out of the city here. And you know what? Actually, let me go ahead and go to a different map that I do have here. There are a couple of maps, but I would say these are probably the two best ones. So let's go to Bakhmut on this one. Okay, so we zoom in here. You can see the highways a lot better here. So it's pretty much those yellow lines there. So if you see here, here's the center. All of these little red stars are the Russian forces pushing in towards Bakhmut. You can see the city is close to being encircled here and is being swallowed up by this major offensive push now being carried out by the Russians. But if you see here, there is a highway here labeled T0504. And so the Russians are close to reaching that highway here, or that road. And then you see two other ones to the south of Bakhmut and to the north. And those are already under Russian control, right? So they've intercepted those points. So really the only option now for the units here, for the Ukrainian military, is to take off-roads, which again, that's the whole reason why they have stopped this aid into the city, because you can't have these vehicles and all this aid and ammunition coming in through these off-road entrances and things like that. It's just going to bog down the personnel, and it's going to expose them right to artillery fire. So the situation essentially is too dangerous, and really now it's just all eyes are on Zelensky. Is he gonna give the order to pull his forces out, or is he gonna let them all get trapped there and die or be taken as prisoners of war? And again, Bakhmut is going to collapse here, guys, within the next couple of days, this week. I don't think it goes longer than this week. We're going to see a major development right here. And this is going to be a major blow to Zelensky, who has said that, they're going to fight to the last Ukrainian, and that, this is a fortress. So this is going to get back to the West, to the U.S., and they're going to wonder, hey, what's going on with all our money, with all our aid? They just lost Bakhmut, which was supposed to be a fortress, a big symbolical city of Ukrainian resistance. And so that's just going to bring down the morale not only of the Ukrainian units, of the Ukrainian people, but also of the whole entire war effort, right? Including the West and all of these other nations that are supporting it. And of course, Zelensky is just going to sit there like, man, what do I do? Like, the tanks that we're supposed to get and all this other stuff isn't going to arrive here for, a couple of more months. And so you can see that the Russians are, launching this offensive now to take advantage of that time before all that all those new armaments arrive in Ukraine, increasing the resistance of their advance. So let's keep reading here. So it says, after months of withering bombardment, Russian forces, including both regular troops and mercenaries from the Wagner private military company, now appear to have surrounded Bakhmut on 3 sides. Okay, I just read that. Ukraine's military said that street fighting had commenced in 2 neighborhoods and that the one remaining road that Ukrainian forces used to gain access to the city was under Russian fire. So let me read that again, guys. This is via the New York Times. And that the one remaining road that Ukrainian forces used to gain access to the city was under Russian fire. So they pretty much have no way of escape now, guys. Speaking in a video address posted online, a Ukrainian commander who goes by the nickname Madiar said the ban on aid organizations entering Bakhmut was necessary because the fighting now exposes to danger even volunteers who come here with good intentions to help. The decision to close access to the city for aid groups suggests that the Ukrainian military cannot secure even areas in the city that for months has been considered relatively safe. So the Russians are closing in here, imminent collapse here, such as neighborhoods on the western bank of the Bakhmutka River, which are farther from the range of Russian artillery strikes. It was It was yet another indication that Russian forces were edging closer to taking the city. So you can go ahead and read the rest of the article here, guys. But again, this decision to stop aid from going into Bakhmut is obviously a sign that they're going to pull their sources here pretty soon, unless Zelensky is really that evil and allows his soldiers to die there. But also, I do want to mention that Stoltenberg here has said that Ukraine is pretty much running out of ammunition here. So let me go ahead and take a quick read here from this report by War News 24/7. It says, bad news is coming for Kyiv as Russian forces managed to break through its layered defenses and advance 2 kilometers west in 4 days. The situation is not good at all, and this is reflected both in the statements of the NATO Secretary General and in the statements of Ukrainian officials. The Secretary General of NATO, Jens Stoltenberg, stated during today's press conference that the stocks of the Ukrainian military forces and NATO ammunition are running out, and this is a major problem, which will be discussed at the upcoming meeting of the defense ministers of the alliance to be held tomorrow, with the aim of finding a solution as soon as possible. He specifically said that currently the rate of ammunition consumption in Ukraine now exceeds the production capabilities of NATO members. For example, the wait for large caliber ammunition has almost doubled from 12 months to 28 months. Wow, they have to wait 28 months for large caliber ammunition, guys, which they're running out of. Again, a couple of weeks ago, we had reports that Russia was close to running out of artillery. So it looks like they meant to say Ukraine, apparently. Therefore, the current orders for ammunition will be completed with their delivery to Ukraine in 2.5 years. Yeah, by the time that artillery gets there in 2.5 years, it's going to be under Russian authority. The war in Ukraine is consuming a huge amount of ammunition. This is putting pressure on our defense industries, he declared. NATO is running out of ammunition. Afterwards, Jens Stoltenberg emphasized that ammunition shortages create pressures and problems for NATO member countries by extension. We have to strengthen our production and production capacity. In any case, the alliance commitment remains, and military support to Ukraine will continue with an even greater shipment of military equipment and weapons. So yeah, there you have it, guys. I'm not going to get too deep into that, but supply issues and the equipment that they are going to be providing for Ukraine isn't going to be there, for months. So pretty much it looks like a lot of promises that are never going to be fulfilled. Russia has now launched this offensive. Bakhmut is getting ready to fall. I mean, everything is just going bad for Ukraine right now. That's why you're not seeing any positive news at all in Western media sources. They're not even talking about the war anymore. They're more focused on, weather balloons over the United States. We literally have this war where they've sent billions of dollars and weapons, right? Making a big deal out of it, making it seem like Putin wants to conquer Europe, which is not the case. They clearly said that the only reason they invaded is because the U.S. was trying to use Ukraine, right, to put nuclear weapons literally right along their borders, just like it happened during the Cuban Missile Crisis when Cuba became friends with Russia and Russia installed missiles in Cuba. The U.S. went bananas and we almost had a nuclear apocalypse because the U.S. was literally threatening Cuba and the Russians with nuclear war. Because Cuba, a sovereign nation, allowed Russia to bring in nuclear missiles, right? So what's good for the goose is good for the gander here. This is just a whole bunch of hypocrisy. And, of course, Putin can't conquer Europe, guys. We're not living in World War II days. We have nuclear weapons, right? If you have one nation trying to conquer the world, everybody is going to suffer. Everybody's going to die via nuclear war. And Putin clearly knows this. He's been talking about this like for a while now. The only ones that keep downplaying nuclear weapons and the situation here is the West, because they're very arrogant and they're not the superpower that they thought they were. And again, there is a spiritual connotation to this. I think that, all this is happening because, we are living in the end of days. But, I think that a nuclear war is for later in the future. I don't think it's going to happen over Ukraine. But yeah, it's gonna get pretty interesting here, guys. Once Bakhmut falls, we'll see what the U.S. and NATO say. But just look at the news, guys. Tell me how many reports are you seeing on your social media or in Western media about Ukraine? Nothing. They're obsessed with UFOs right now and weather balloons in China because they know that this was a failed operation, just like Iraq, just like Afghanistan, and all the other countless wars and proxy wars that the U.S. has carried out. And unfortunately, the American people keep getting bamboozled, really, with Iraq, with Afghanistan. Literally, George Bush admitted that Iraq was a terrible, unholy war, just like the invasion of Ukraine. But they just laugh about it. So, no, you can't just go around the world in hypocrisy and criticizing nations and thinking you can do whatever you want. And the U.S. is about to be embarrassed on the international stage, and so is Ukraine. And Russia is going to come out stronger out of all of this. And soon, things are going to be unraveling at such a pace that it's going to be undeniable, even to those who do not wish to be awakened. Anyways, guys, remember, the truth is stranger than fiction. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you give the video a like. Make sure you subscribe. And also check out the links below, guys, if you want to support the channel. Head over to Rumble. Make sure you subscribe there. You never know. This channel could get nuked if they don't like what I'm saying, because it's contrary to Western media. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Have a wonderful day, and God bless.